So welcome to the Winnipeg Humane Society webinars. I'm Nancy and I work here in the behavior department, working with animal training and behavior modification. And today we're going to talk about a behavior issue that's fairly common in dogs, and that is resource guarding. So what is resource guarding? Resource guarding is a protective behavior that dogs exhibit when they fear that something they possess is going to be taken away. It is rooted in insecurity and it's instinctual. All animals have some level of possessiveness because out in the wild, if you don't guard your food and your good place to sleep and that sort of thing, then you don't survive. So it's a basic survival instinct. We can change this behavior through behavior modification, fortunately. And but untreated, these behaviors can become more entrenched and can become a serious problem if your dog is willing to bite to protect a resource. So what resource guarding is not, it is not a dog who's trying to dominate you. They're not trying to be the boss. They're not trying to run the show. It is, like we said, a instinctual behavior or survival instinct. So a couple of facts about resource guarding. Start with dogs can resource guard towards guard things from people, from other dogs, even the family cat. It just depends how threatened they feel. Dogs can guard a variety of objects, food, toys, bones and chew toys, like really high value stuff can often be a problem. Or they can guard people, such as sitting in their owner's lap, or they can guard their beds, anything a dog finds valuable. So resource guarding can be a problem because the related behavior, which dogs can escalate to biting, is potentially dangerous. And this danger multiplies with the size of the dog. This isn't to say that resource guarding in small dogs is not a problem. Remember, it is rooted in security and fear, and we don't want our dogs feeling like that. And quite honestly, bites from small dogs still hurt. People are often surprised when their dogs start showing guarding behaviors, and sometimes it can be over something unusual, and therefore becomes very valuable in the dog's eyes. Say you're in the kitchen, somebody drops a plate of food, that's like a bonus for the dog. Or if you're out for a walk and your dog finds a dead animal carcass, that can be really exciting for a dog. And you may find your dog guarding that item from you, and when you've never seen that kind of behavior before. And a big point about resource guarding is that if you punish a dog who is guarding a resource, you can either escalate the situation because the dog now thinks you're really a threat for that resource, or you can teach a dog who may be growling over an item that they need to stop growling, but it's not going to stop them from guarding. So your dog will actually remove that growl, which is taking away a warning. And that would normally happen before they escalated to a bite, and we want our dogs to communicate with us. We don't want to remove that communication. Okay, so there's two main factors to consider about dogs' guarding behaviors. So we're going to think about whether, if you've seen your dog show guarding behaviors, has it been very specific over one particular item? It's common for dogs that guard their food bowl. So that can be a common one. If the object, it is a very specific thing, like their food bowl, that can be easier to manage and easier to prevent the guarding behavior. If your dog shows low levels of guarding behavior, we're going to talk about that in a bit, that is safer to intervene. So if your dog has a specific object they guard, like their food bowl, and they don't show really intense behaviors about it, they're low level behaviors, then treatment can be easier and have a pretty high success rate. So we can work with that. We want to think about too, do dogs guard from, not from humans, but they guard from other dogs, because that can happen. And even some dogs will show maybe low level guarding behaviors at humans which are a little risk to humans, but they will show a very escalated behavior with other dogs. So there can be different factors involved in your dog's guarding. Dog to dog resource guarding is really normal as long as it remains at a low level and both dogs are kind of listening to each other. If one dog has a bone and the other dog approaches and the dog with the bone growls and the other dog walks away, conflict averted, and the communication was successful. So, and we can usually handle dog to dog resource guarding with good management practices, and we'll talk about those too in a bit. Severe guarding behaviors, ones that can be quite dangerous for people, can actually be triggered by movements from a distance. So this means if your dog is a very intense guarder of say a chew toy, and someone walks through the living room but nowhere near the dog may rush over to chase the person away. People can be very surprised by this. This is one of the reasons that severe guarding behaviors can be a problem, and so we want to work with that. Okay, so what are low level and higher level guarding behaviors? Some of these can be really subtle and like they're on a continuum, like the slide says. So sometimes they take some really good observation skills to look at what might be what they might be trying to tell us with their behavior. So here at the beginning, we've got a friendly, people-oriented dog. We're going to use the example of a food bowl. So your dog's eating and you approach. If your dog stops eating and looks at you and wags their tail in greeting, that's when he's not guarding his food. So that's good. But maybe if you approach your dog's bowl while they're eating, they look at you, their tail starts to wag, maybe acknowledging your presence, but they keep eating. And then we have a little higher here. You approach your dog when they're eating and their body tenses up. The tail could be wagging, but it starts wagging like high in the air, like almost vibrating. As you come closer, the dog, that's a sign of a dog getting tense and stressed. So the next level, your dog might turn, stop eating, glare, and lift their lip, maybe growl, or they can actually push their face faster into the bowl and eat faster because they're trying to possess that food before you take it away. As we're moving into the darker colors here, some dogs will do what we call porting. They'll actually pick up the item, maybe not their food bowl, but they can try and do that too, to pick it up and move it somewhere where they can guard it better. So in a quiet corner or into their kennel. If you can follow them and you don't respect the fact he's trying to get away from you with the object, they may growl or escalate to other behaviors. So the next thing that a dog will do if they feel that they really need to communicate loudly is they will air snap, which is a bite that does not make contact with you. You hear a lot of people saying, oh, my dog, that dog tried to bite me. Dogs have very good control over their mouths. Usually if they don't bite you, it's because they weren't trying to. They're sending a message. That's a warning. Dogs don't want to hurt people. They don't want to get into conflict, but they communicate with their behavior. So an air snap is a strong communication that they are feeling stressed out about your being near their item. So then if they escalate past the air snap, then we have a bite. It'll be a quick, hard bite that breaks through the skin. It hurts. The dog may continue to bite to get you to back up, and the bite could be several punctures that will maybe move up your arm or closer to your face. Those are more dangerous. So this is why guarding, can be really dangerous for people, especially with kids, because kids don't always read the green lines there, the really subtle signs, or the yellow. And a lot of people don't recognize that their dog is really feeling uncomfortable until that air snap happens at the second to last level. If you can recognize it at the lower levels, it can be really helpful in trying to train your dog out of these behaviors. So we can treat this, and there are some factors that go into a successful treatment. And that would be, we talked about earlier, whether they guard one specific item or if they generalize their guarding. That can be a dog that feels that anything he thinks is his he will guard it. That could be trickier to treat and a lot harder to manage. So then also we got to consider the level of the guarding behaviors. If your dog just gets a little bit tense over their items, it's easier to handle and make them feel better about you approaching. If a dog lunges and snaps, that's trickier. And obviously, if they're willing to bite, that is getting into danger territory. So the other big factor and the most important factor in teaching a dog not to guard things is the commitment of the owner to management. Management is always step one to make sure the dog doesn't think they need to guard. Remember that it is an emotional reaction. They really think they need to guard it. So we need to teach them that they don't need to. So first step one is to manage it, not put the dog in a position where they feel like that, and then work on making them feel better about us approaching slowly. This treatment might happen for the rest of their lives. Like say it is an instinct. Dogs are going to be born with more of an instinct or less, and it can also, of course, we got the nature. We also the nurture. Different things that have happened to them through their lives can affect that too. So it may be something that you'll need to think about for as long as you have your dog. So some parts of the treatment. Management of the resources. So if your dog is only guards really high value items like bones or antlers or that sort of thing, you want to manage if you're going to give your dog those items and where you're going to give them to them. So you could control their access to it by only giving them their bones when they're in their crates, or it depends. I had a dog that would guard her antler from our cat. Cat didn't care, but so we made sure that the dog, she only got her antler to chew on when the cat was off sleeping somewhere. So there's different ways you can manage that. Okay, in-home help from an experienced behavior trainer is always recommended if you aren't sure how to do this or sure how you're going to do it. When you're looking into finding a professional trainer to help you, bear in mind that a lot of trainers are not experienced in behavior modification. That is sort of a different skill set from obedience training. So you want to find someone who has experience in behavior modification over this specific kind of behavior, and one that uses positive reinforcement techniques to keep everybody safe and help your dog not guard things in the future. They can help you, the trainer can help you, or you can learn how to teach your dog to relinquish items on cue. That's asking your dog for a good drop it or a give, and can help a lot. With dogs who guard, there's different games and exercises you can do to help teach your dog self-control or impulse control. Teach your dog to relax overall, because these behaviors are rooted in anxiety. So if we can teach our dogs to relax, and they aren't going to be as worried about losing things all the time. We can do desensitization training, and that is a behavior modification technique where we get the dog used to us being close, that us being close to them means good things happen, and make them feel better about that and less sensitive to people being in their space. Another angle to go with is to talk to your veterinarian about possible short-term use of anti-anxiety medications. No trainer should ever be giving you recommendations on medications, like what kind and that sort of thing, but it is a good general idea to go talk to your veterinarian. There are some veterinarians that specialize in working with dogs with behavior issues, and because that medication can have a good effect on some dogs and can help with the training. So you may want to think about that. Okay, so it's kind of nice to prevent resource guarding in the first place. Like I said, it's a very natural behavior, but one that we don't want to encourage in our dogs. And there's ways we can do that. We can help them not guard. So we want to start those as soon as our new dog or new puppy comes into their new home. We always want them to feel secure with the items that we do give them. So for older dogs, you're going to want to watch them really carefully to see what their sort of behaviors are over things. Some dogs will do really subtle things, like if you approach closely while they have a toy, they might just push their chest over top of it and then look at you with what we call a whale eye, where they don't turn their heads, but they turn their eyes to look at you. And that's it. That's a super subtle, but that is one way that dogs will guard, and it's a way they're telling us, and it's up to us to figure out what it is. So that's always good to really understand your new dog and give them some space. Yeah, these signs can be subtle. They can be easily missed. If somebody misses that subtle, they're put their chest over top and look at you funny and freeze for a second. If somebody misses that and goes to reach for it, the dog may think, okay, I tried to tell them to stay away. They didn't, and they may go for a bite or a growl or an air snap. So we want to make sure that we watch for the subtle signs. Low-level guarding behaviors, like we talked about before, where your dog may seem a little bit uncomfortable, may start, like say with the food bowl, might start eating a little fast, or that sort of thing. There are preventive exercises we can do, and we're going to talk about those in a couple of minutes. They're non-confrontational. They're not designed to make the dog feel uncomfortable. On the contrary, it's to help the dog feel more comfortable and help everybody stay safer. If your dog does exhibit higher level guarding behaviors, the air snapping, that sort of thing, or if they seem to generalize their guarding, I've seen dogs that would actually guard a room that their empty dog food bowl was in from people. That's how intense their guarding was over their food. If a dog does exhibit higher level guarding behaviors, I highly recommend you to get a professional in to help to keep everybody safe. Okay, so food bowl exercise. So this is a game that you can do with your dog that we'll talk about in a second. Because what happens is, a lot of times people bring a dog home, they feed them in a bowl, they put the food down, and they walk away. Okay, that's a lost opportunity to help our dogs feel more comfortable with us around. So what we want to do is teach them that to be comfortable with us approaching them or walking by, and even looking forward to us approaching it, approaching their bowl, so that we don't ever develop the problem of guarding. Owners with good intentions often make the mistake of wanting to teach the dog to let them take stuff away, not I want to teach my dog to feel comfortable with me being there. It's like they have to learn that I'm going to take the stuff away from them and be safe. So they reach in and they take the food or they take the chew toy and give nothing in return. A lot of dogs don't think that's really fair. And this method can actually trigger a dog who didn't guard before to start guarding, because they think if the owner approaches, whatever they have is going to be taken away. It's going to be gone for good. So they better guard it. So we're going to teach them the opposite. So food bowl exercise, how does that work? So we got our food bowl. We're going to put a small portion of their kibble in a bowl, just a few kibbles. And once the dog eats them, then we can take the bowl. And this is for low level exercise. Remember, this is for low level. So a dog that's not going to guard the empty bowl, they're not going to guard the room. So this is for a dog who's comfortable. So we put some food in, they eat it, we pick up the bowl, give them a few more, and then we feed them their meal through these small bits of food. Your dog will start anticipating that, hey, when they come for my bowl, more food's going to appear. So it's a good thing when people appear. And you can even amp that up with the next time while your dog's eating, you can actually walk by and toss really good stuff in the bowl, like cooked chicken, shredded cheese, the real good stuff. So the dog learns that every time human approaches, better things happen. So if your dog does show signs of discomfort when you approach, maybe starting to eat faster, that's a sign that you're probably too close for their comfort. So you want to stay a little bit farther back and get good at tossing the food towards the bowl. And then your dog will start anticipating and that something better is coming, and you'll be able to slowly move closer. You don't want to push them too far if they are feeling uncomfortable. So just start a little farther away and you'll slowly be able to move closer. Yeah. And they won't have to rush to finish their meal. So another thing we can do is teaching drop it. So if your dog picks up a really valuable item, you'll already have them in the habit of dropping things when you ask them to. So we can use the word drop it or give, whichever you ever like. It doesn't matter what word you use as long as it's the same one every time. So we're going to let our dog have a low value object like a toy that they like. They always have access to it. So you give them the toy. You're going to have something better in your hand. That can be a bit of food or a better toy or a chew toy. You're going to ask them to drop it, hold the object in view, wait until the dog drops it. You can even try to get their attention or wave the smelly food in front of their face. And what you don't want to do is ever take the object out of the dog's mouth. That's a sure way to teach him that he needs to guard it if you're going to take it by force. The idea is that when he drops it, he will get something better. So that's the reward. And we do that over and over again, and your dog will be in the habit of drop it. So when they do pick up something really exciting that they don't want to give up, but they're already in, as soon as you say drop it, they drop it. And they learn to do that just as a reaction. So that is a good thing to work on before your dog guards anything. We can also do drop it or give and take. So you ask your dog to, once they have a drop it, you ask them to drop their toy. You take it, you make it look really interesting. If it's a toy, you can play with it and then give it right back to him and give. So he learns that that even if he does relinquish things, he's going to get them back. So that's two different ways of looking at it. Either they're going to get something better when they drop it, or they're just going to get it right back. And they can be a really fun game for your dog to play. When you're doing a give and take, you can occasionally, if you take the object, take the toy from him. Oh boy, this is a really fun toy. Give it back to him. You can also give him bonus food rewards too, just to make it that much better. So he gets used to, oh, okay, if I give it up, hey, something really good might happen. So yeah. So those are some good exercises you can do with your dog to prevent them from wanting to guard things. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit here about management, which is we want to control the resources while we're working on this guarding behavior. So we want to set them up for success. Okay, this means providing objects in a controlled situation. We don't want to leave their toys and their chews just laying around. So we'll give it to them wherever the situation is more controlled. We want to avoid a situation to trigger the behavior. Remember, it's not the dog trying to be the boss. He's not trying to run the show. He's anxious about losing the item. So we don't want to put him in a position where he thinks he could lose it. And like I say, this could just be you walking by when you have no interest in it whatsoever. But just being there, the dog may be worried about losing it. So if they're like that, let's keep them away from any situation that might trigger their behavior. Give them their good stuff where they're in a separate room or they're in a crate, that sort of thing. And if your dog does, get an item that you don't want them to have, you want to have a plan to get it back from them, and that's part of that drop it and trading for treats, so you can trade for better food. So to do that, you don't want to escalate the dog's guarding levels if they do get a hold of an item where they're guarding. So we just want to distract the dog with something really good and then remove access to the item. So then we want to introduce a treatment plan where you're going to work with, hopefully with a trainer, and we can do things, say, like the food bowl desensitization and the learning give and take and drop it and that sort of thing. And make sure you got a safe way, like I said, to regain possession of an object if they do get one. So if your dog does show a high level of guarding at any point, you want to back off to end the conflict. That's the idea. Reacting with force or trying to correct your dog can actually escalate the guarding and the aggressive behavior. So we don't want to get into a battle with the dog over it. We want to get out safely and then work on a treatment plan for it. So in conclusion, for dogs with no history of resource guarding, you still want to be observant and watch for any sign of guarding behavior. Like I said, if something unusual and super exciting happens, you may see behavior of a dog you didn't know was there. It's just they've never found anything that exciting, say like a dead squirrel. See it happen. So we can do preventive exercises to teach dogs to willingly drop items and to feel comfortable with you approaching them while they have things that they want, like their food bowl or their chew toys and that sort of thing. If a dog does have a history of guarding, then we want to have a be mindful of management, and we want to make sure to start a treatment plan. Those are crucial. And if any of this is you're not quite sure how to get started and that sort of thing, you definitely want to seek the help of a qualified professional, trainer who is used to working with behavior issues. So thanks for joining us today at the Winnipeg Humane Society. And if you need any help in the meantime, you can call us at the helpline at 204-988-8808 or email us at behavior, that's behavior with a U, at winnipeghumanesociety.ca. Okay, thanks for joining us.